Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and what is this? This is
A
feet,
f-
right? No,
Yes,
it is.
it is.
Yes, shucks.
It's a feat.
Should we start out? No, let's roll with it.
We're
It's
running
feet.
the punches. This
We
is a feat, friends.
do the feet. Night of the Rose.
Yes! Shout out to the world, Bob. We're doing a feat
Confused
today.
with the feats and the fighting styles. And I thought, oh, is it Warlock? No, it's not Warlock. It
It's
would be
not
no,
World Wednesday
Warrior.
today.
No, Martial Monday, but it's not.
It's not. It's just a
It
feat.
is
This could be a
whatever
regular
day
Thursday.
this is.
Yeah. This is another one of those feats from the Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen book. This is an expansion on the Squire of Solamnia feat, which gives you bonus damage whenever you hit things. It's pretty fine. I'm a big fan of that feat. I think it's entirely reasonable. This one I think is less reasonable. So this builds off of it. It gives you... So you are a Knight of Solamnia aligned with the Order of the Rose, a group known for leadership, justice, and wisdom. Your resolve grants you the following benefits. So you have ability score increase your con, wizard, charisma by 1 to max of 20. Neat. Bolstering Rally is the other ability you get. So as a bonus action, you can encourage one creature you can see within 30 feet of you. You can choose yourself. If the target can see or hear you, it gets temp HP equal to 1d8 plus your proficiency bonus plus a modifier increased by this feat. So you pick charisma for the feat, you get charisma for this bonus temp HP. You can use this bonus action number of times equal to your proficiency bonus and get all of them back when you finish a long rest. So you do get like a good chunk of these. You do get like 4 or 5 whenever you pick this up. Usually, if building off of Squire of Solamnia means one of two things. One, you're in a Dragonlance setting and you have the background that gives you the feat Squire of Solamnia. I wouldn't recommend having that at tables that aren't Dragonlance because that setting is made to play with backgrounds that give feats. Most settings are not. Otherwise, it requires you to be a paladin or a fighter to take Squire of Solamnia. So that is more likely the case, and I would recommend having that be the prerequisite for it, even though it's probably found on non-paladins and fighters too. But for the Worlds is written, that's what's there. So this being a build off of Squire of Solamnia means you're probably playing a fighter or paladin. Paladins kind of care about their charisma, but both classes care about their con a bit. I don't know if they care enough that you want to sink ability score increases into it, and that makes this one of the rare cases where I don't know if this ability score increase even justifies, like, on its own, being a reason to take this if you're going from an auto and even. If you're not going from an auto and even, I would probably never consider this, just because getting a menial boost to an ability score you don't care to improve anyway is not where I really want to be. And bolstering Rally is fine. I don't think it's probably high enough impact for a second feat to be.
All right, two things. Maybe I just haven't been paying attention, but don't the ability score groups that you improve usually run like the mental ones and the physical ones?
It varies.
It does
with,
vary? Okay.
Specifically with Knight of the Rose, but also all the different feats. Usually they're related to the classes that are intended to take it. So you'll see the full caster feats, the ones that give ability score increases that also get second level spells, like Shadow Touch, for example.
Yeah.
That will give int, charisma, or wisdom, which are the spellcasting ability
Right.
modifiers, right? The mental is what they're often considered. There are other feats that will improve your strength or dexterity if they're supposed to be attack-based. Strength or con is normally like the durability hard, big burly paladins and barbarians holding bulwark shields and stuff like that, right? That is another sort of genre of them. Normally they're just grouped by like classification. So in this case, Knight of the Rose, con, wiz, and charisma are supposed to be representative of the Order of the Rose. This justice, leadership, wise group is what these are supposed to be representing, I guess.
All right, and number 2, you're not excited about Constitution.
Not really. I think people slightly overrate it as far as level.
All right, for fighter, of course, hit points, yay.
Yeah.
But for a paladin who's going to be using some concentration spells, that's hit points and concentration.
That's true.
That's
I don't necessarily want to spend my ability score improvements, especially early going into con. If you can get like a 15 con, going up to a 16 is pretty nice, and it isn't unreasonable. A lot of races will have a spare con lying around that'll often be like, well, I don't mind getting an odd con mod instead of an odd like int mod or whatever. So that's a way you can build your character if you're thinking ahead to say, if I put an odd con, the odd con feats will bump that up. And I think that's probably the most likely case there. It's definitely the more reasonable of the three. I think Charisma and Paladin also can be fine. There'll be some Paladins that care about their spell save DCs. Not many, but there'll be some. In either of those cases, it's okay. Even Wisdom is like, okay, perception checks, passive perception is useful. I don't put it on a lot of fighters highly or paladins highly either. Paladins less so because they care about the charisma, and that's, you don't have you have to budget your ability score somehow. And strength is definitely going to be number one for both of those builds typically. Sometimes dex for fighters. Constitution could be fine. Charisma could be fine. it not being your primary ability score, I think, is a really large downside for this. I think most of the feats that we talk about that we say this is notable is because you're increasing your primary ability score, the thing you care about most. And then these characters don't almost ever care most about any of these 3 ability scores.
I'm going to make one more argument against that specifically.
Sure.
If you're looking to take this feat,
Mhm.
it's because you care about hit points.
Oh, pardon. Chugging on my own spit. That is kind of reasonable. I think that if you are taking this feat and if you were to pair this against something like tough, I think that's a pretty fair comparison, right?
Yeah.
If you're getting a +1 HP because you're getting the con mod up and bolstering rally on top of that, this is probably better than tough. And I think tough is a perfectly reasonable feat. So okay, I think that maybe that's fine. I think you might have convinced me that a Constitution might be worth
this one though. I mean, this is tough. Well, I mean, tough is only on you.
Mhm.
This you can put on somebody else.
Yeah, tough is also just a gigantic well of hit points, though.
Yeah.
Twice your level is huge, and this +1 con is your level bonus. So tough often feels like getting a +2 con mod, which is really, really big as far as like hit points goes. The D8, being able to divvy up D8s is going to often be more than your level. But it's not all at once, which means, and you have to invest resources and time into it. So you're spending time divvying that up. Often that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing whenever like huge chunks of damage are occurring all at once. I think there'll be more cases where bolstering rally is better than tough. I don't know if, because it is that's conditional on this contextually being better than tough is conditional on your con mod flipping from on to even. That is where this becomes in the realm of slightly better than tough. And I don't necessarily think a feat's amazing if we're shooting at its best case scenario for it to be slightly better than tough, and it isn't often slightly better than tough. Because if you don't get that con mod up, if you don't go from an auto to even on your con score here, you're getting no extra hit points and then the temp HP stuff, and I don't think that's better than just a gigantic well of extra HP.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's fine.
We go through this again and again, but you take for granted that the player isn't mapping out their progression. I think, yeah, you don't take this unless you've already planned to flip your con score from an odd to an even.
If you're working on a pre-build, like this is what my 20 levels look like, that's probably where this feat goes, is to say this is where I gain extra durability, where instead of taking the tough feat on these kinds of characters at like, we're talking about like 11th level plus whenever this comes into play, because again, those characters, if you're doing a really planned out character, 95% of the time it involves getting a more powerful build than this is giving you, right? It's not necessarily caring about things that aren't as useful. Like temporary HP isn't useful. I wouldn't put tough on most like optimized characters. I think most of the time you're just taking damage bumps in any way you can, or like maybe you want to build the world's greatest X, Y, or Z in skill checks. Those are the options you're taking aimed at those things. Maybe you're doing like utility belt stuff and want a bunch of spells. Temp HP is almost always at the very bottom of the list of things that I'm prioritizing, and all this is temp HP and a mod bump. So there's not a lot of characters I see being built with that in mind. If you're playing, especially because Squire Solamnia is like fine, but also not amazing, right? So maybe if you're a Dragonlance specific character and you want to be a tanky or frontline paladin or a fighter, I think it's not abhorrent. It's fine. It's just not as exciting as a lot of the other options on the table, I think.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. I making arguments before, but truth is, I've never been excited about temporary hit points. It's just not. I don't like anything temporary. Even things that you get once per long rest. Is like, no, thank you. I want something I can do at will.
For what it's worth, like what you can just do, bolstering rally doesn't have a duration, which means the temp HP lasts until you get new temp HP that's bigger than it or your next long rest. So you can just every long rest be like bonus HP, bonus HP, bonus HP, bonus HP, go. And you just have given it all out, and it's just free temp HP every long rest. And that's not the end of the world. That's not great, but it's not like, it's not a feat that I'm embarrassed to have on my character sheet. It very much is going to feel like the motivational speaker feat. You give everyone 1d10 plus your level or half your level temp HP or whatever. It's going to feel similar to that, probably a little bit worse. But it does have the flexibility in combat to be like, I know my fighter allies taking a lot of damage. They take damage, I bolstering rally. They take damage, I bolstering rally. They take damage, I bolstering rally. And you kind of like level out their HP or boost up their HP artificially. This never being able to get anyone off zero is a really big bummer, right? This isn't a tool that is like a healing word. This has to always be preventative. Eating your bonus action, though, isn't the end of the world, especially on paladins and fighters who don't necessarily always have ways to spend their bonus action efficiently. So that's kind of an upside for it.
Well, yeah, like I said, you can just do this when you wake up in the morning.
If you want to.
Yeah, but I do like that it has the versatility though. If you can spread it out evenly among your friends, or you say, all right, that guy is looking rough. Somebody could heal him, or he could just give him some temp HP, like load him up with a bunch of it. I guess. I don't know. Not in love
Yeah.
with this, but I don't hate it.
I mean,
I'll probably never use it.
I think this is probably only slightly better than Knight of the Sword, and that I think it is Ant is worse than Con, and they otherwise give the same ability sure choices. And Demoralizing Strike is fine, but not as consistent as this is. So this is at least always you're getting the in-time HP whenever
Yeah.
you need it. I don't think any of them are like unusably bad. I don't know if any of them necessarily. Crown is pretty good. That's the one that lets you bonus action offer people attack rolls, so you can like do some stuff with your rogue in a pretty powerful way. I think that is one. I think Knight of the Crown is a feat you build with your party, and that builds out of Squire. Otherwise, building out of Squire, I don't necessarily see a lot of builds going this direction. I probably like if I'm playing with a group of new people and I'm a dedicated paladin, I'm gonna be like, my objective is to hit like a bus while keeping everyone alive. This is something I probably consider, especially knowing that they're not bringing optimized builds. They're not looking at feat trees and figuring out exactly how to get when and how quickly they can get their polearm master sentinel online. Right, those are the kinds of players that I think if I'm an experienced player going to the table and I want to be efficient at keeping people alive, this is pretty reasonable. It's pretty great to be like the druid is something profoundly stupid. Have HP, stay alive while you try and get out of danger, throwing like just 3d8 plus half your level at them, what it's gonna feel like, or 3d8 plus proficiency bonus plus mod. So it's like 3d8, or it's like a 3d8 plus 3 times that number. It's a lot of temp HP, is
Yeah.
the gist of it, that you're just slapping onto somebody. That's gonna feel pretty decent. And I think that fantasy of being the protector may want this. It competes with Heavy Armor Master and some other pretty decent defensive feats. It competes with feats that keep yourself alive a little bit better. And it having the prerequisite of Squire is like, okay, now we have a huge jump through to get this pretty mediocre feat. That being said, again, I don't find it offensive. I think that I could envision myself putting this feat on a character sheet after taking Squire. I could envision myself where I want to play a fair character with a group of people that are not necessarily looking to munchkin min-max stuff. Maybe they're just there for the RP. Maybe they're just there because they like hanging out with their friends. That's where I think I would be like, okay, this is probably the direction. I get the gist of the table. We're not trying to power game things. We're not trying to see how high DPR goes. We're not trying to like big number go up. We're just playing some fun casual Dungeons and Dragons. I think that's where this feat probably has its best home.
Yeah. I mean, even as like a role playing versus power gamer, I don't get the RP feel from this. What is
I
what is
don't
its aim? Like
I see
you're
in that instance it being a way to cover for RP players that are bad at combat, that are not thinking about the tactics of it at all, that are here to play who they want their character to be and make dumb decisions and get way in over their heads and take way too much damage and make big, raw, emotional, powerful moments that will absolutely kill the character if you're not there protecting them. This gives you a tool to mitigate some of that. That gives you a tool to say, I'm going to help this person, even though they've been using a sling for 30 levels that they're not proficient in. I'm going to keep them alive. That's sort of where this helps people whose builds may not come together as powerful or as aimed in a lane. They don't have a cohesive theme to it. It'll help them continue to function by not going down, by not dying, by being allowed to get a little bit in over their heads more than usual. That's where I see it facilitating that kind of table play.
yeah. I think that guy with the sling just needs to die. Sometimes you have to go to the school of hard knocks to really learn things.
Sure.
All right. Got anything else to say about it?
Yeah, it's not a feat that I'm hurt exists. It's a 3. I mean, it's a bunch of temp HP. I started this at a 2, and you kind of talked me into with the concentration checks. The Constitution's good enough that, yeah, you care about that enough. You probably want a +1 in every once in a while. That on top of comparisons to tough, and I think tough is pretty fine feat. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I'll agree with the 3. Nothing I'm excited about, but I like the con bump. Like for this specifically, if you
Yeah.
want to be the hit point dispenser or you use it on yourself, if you care that much about your hit points, yeah, con bump's good. The versatility is good, versus something like tough. Um,
This might
Yeah.
even be on a couple character sheets whose whole objective is to say, I'm going to take as little damage as possible. So they take heavily armored, they take they take this and tough, right? And they're just like, yeah, I have a 20 constitution and a strength of 14, and I'm fine with that because all I'm here to do is continually re-give myself the 10 HP and just be a 500 hit point wall that the monsters have to get through. I could see that being a character some people would build, and this probably goes on that sheet.
That could be fun.
You are forgoing a lot because, again, this is 2 feats because you have to take Squire to get this.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I'm like, is it though? But yeah, no, maybe.
All right, that was Knight of the Rose. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. Let us know what you think in the comments, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it, a gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.